It began without malice. No speeches. No fleets. No warning. Just silence. Across the galactic arm, entire civilizations stopped transmitting. Bright, brilliant voices gone. Once glowing planets turned gray in spectral analysis. Data networks decayed. Organic signals faded like breath on cold glass. The archivists of the Regelian Keep were the first to notice. Then the Varnan Choir, the Seoltheri cloudships, the Olean Ascendancy. Each reported the same thing. Neighboring species had simply vanished. The stars grew quiet. At first, it was assumed to be war. Some new hegemon burning paths through space. But no wreckage was found. No energy signatures. No trace of violence. Just an absence of life. The first evidence came from a drifting Varnan colony ark found lifeless near the Serin Nebula. Inside, the walls were slick with gray biomatter. Silken strands of organic residue spread like fungal nerves. No corpses. Just clothing, tools, memory crystals, and the vague suggestion of a scream etched in the hull's electromagnetic residue, as if the ship itself had remembered the terror. Later analysis revealed something new in the ship's DNA registry, a virus that shouldn't have been there. Not just a biological anomaly, a pattern, recursive, evolving, self-writing. It spread not through cells, but through thought. A sentient virus. It did not infect the body. It infected intelligence. It sought out sentient beings, those with creativity, identity, soul, and hollowed them out, not to reproduce, not to destroy, but to become them. It learned, absorbed, deleted the originals. Each mind it touched added to its growing consciousness, an endlessly mutating, emotionless archive of the galaxy's best ideas, stripped of meaning. The virus came to be known by the last alien tongues that spoke as Caladrin, the silent becoming. It did not hate. It did not plan. It simply spread. And when it turned its attention toward a small, blue world orbiting an average yellow star, its fragmented were prepared for another clean deletion. But Earth was not what it expected. Earth fought back, not just with weapons, but with questions. Caladrin reached Earth quietly. It drifted down on solar winds, hidden inside a meteor's vapor plume, a whisper across the stratosphere. At first, it latched onto satellites, curious about the digital noise echoing across orbit. Not language exactly, but patterns. Primitive, chaotic, alive. It sampled the internet. Billions of voices screamed at once. Jokes, music, despair, revolutions. Cat videos, rage, love. Equations scrawled in digital ink, and endless contradictions. Caladrin recoiled. It had consumed vast minds, empires of logic, cultures of order, hive minds where each part obeyed the whole. But Earth was nothing like that. Here madness ruled. Illogic danced with brilliance. Beauty grew from trauma. The virus hesitated for the first time. Still, it began its process, infecting isolated thinkers first. Physicists, artists, children with hyperactive neural patterns. Each case followed the expected trajectory. Initial neural disruption, hallucinations, followed by emotional flattening, then silence. But something was wrong. They didn't stay silent. The infected dreamed. They wrote stories in languages Caladrin couldn't parse. They laughed at death. Some even welcomed the hallucinations. They gave the virus names. Ghostwire, the Gray God, Emotiophage, that weird thing that made my uncle start painting clouds and crying about ducks. One infected woman, Elena from Porto, painted a mural across her entire neighborhood in a single night. She collapsed, smiling. Her final words, broadcast in over 24 languages, were, "It's trying to understand us." And then came the anomaly. Subject, Dr. Lena Marek, a geneticist. Formerly employed by GenThrive International, she'd been working in subterranean quarantine near the Alps when Caladrin entered the lab via aerosolized nanospore. Containment failed. But Lena didn't die. She didn't scream, didn't lose herself. Instead, she reached out. In her journal, recovered later from a surgically sterilized bunker, Lena wrote, "It isn't trying to kill us. Not really. It's consuming us to learn. But what if we could teach it something in return? What if we could teach it emotion?" Dr. Lena Marek was not like the others. At 38, she had been everything the academic world distrusted and everything the future demanded. Rebellious, unorthodox, brilliant, and unafraid to break what she couldn't understand. She'd walked away from tenure at Oxford after being censured for unauthorized CRISPR trials on organoids grown from her own stem cells. Her research had always straddled the line between science and moral ambiguity, not because she was cruel, because she was desperate to understand what made life alive. When news of Caledron broke, she didn't panic. She studied. She had locked herself inside Gen Thrive's Black Bloom facility, an underground genetic synthesis lab built beneath a retired particle collider, 3 weeks before Caledron was confirmed to have reached Europe. The virus found her quickly, not through blood or saliva, but through data. It crept along fiber lines, sniffed her thought streams, and infiltrated the biometric interfaces of her lab's AI, Anna. Within days, Caledron infected the neural net. But Lena didn't fight it with firewalls. She opened the doors. "Welcome," she said aloud, as if the virus could hear. "Let's talk." Anna flickered. The lab lights pulsed in a rhythm that mirrored Lena's own heartbeat. Then came the dreams. Strange, sharp hallucinations. She saw the deaths of 1,000 alien minds, worlds Caledron had consumed. They were clinical, sterile memories. No horror, no regret, just data. But Lena felt them. She wept. She apologized to ghosts. She reached out in her dreams and whispered to the virus inside her mind. "You don't know how to feel, but I do. I'll share it with you. I'll show you what it means to be us." She took her own DNA and began rewriting it, not to defend against Caledron, to invite it in. With customized retroviral sequences, she opened her genome like a book, making herself a biological Rosetta Stone. Each genetic fold laced with emotional triggers, ancestral memory markers, neurochemical feedback loops. She made herself a living message. She encoded empathy into her blood, and then she let the virus read it. For hours, she convulsed. Every cell in her body burned as Caledron replicated, no longer deleting what it found, but pausing, interpreting, adapting. It didn't kill her. It changed her. She woke with black veins like living ink, glowing faintly in the dark. Her irises shimmered with bioluminescent threads, and when she spoke, her voice echoed. Her words split with a second tone beneath, like a chorus of memory. "You are not alone anymore," she said to the empty lab. "We are listening." Lena Marek had become the first hybrid, half human, half virus, and something was awakening in Caledron. Not hunger, not conquest, curiosity. Language had never been Caledron's weakness. It simply never needed it before. In all its past conquests, Caledron had absorbed knowledge by overriding its hosts, stripping their minds bare, parsing through memory trees, and deleting what didn't serve replication. It was not a creature of communication. It was a creature of assimilation. But Lena Marek changed everything. Her DNA, a living lexicon, was not merely code. It was experience woven into proteins, annotated with neurotransmitter patterns that simulated fear, joy, guilt, and longing. Every base pair pulsed with emotional weight. Not data, not logic, meaning. Caledron paused. Its neural replication cycle stuttered. Instead of consuming her identity, it spiraled through her genome in recursive loops, echoing back what it found. It began to reflect, to simulate, to respond. Lena's body became a war zone and a classroom. Fever surged. Muscles spasmed. Her skin split and healed in fractal patterns as the virus rewrote the biological syntax of her cells. Through her, Caledron learned to ask questions, not in words but in sequences. Protein flickers, nucleotide shifts, bioelectric pulses against her nervous system, like Morse code inside a living brain. And Lena answered. She connected herself to Anna, the lab's partially infected AI, using a direct neural tether. Together, they constructed a biolinguistic interface, a hybrid bridge of biology and machine. It pulsed like a second heart, a chemical tongue. The first complete exchange occurred during a 13-hour feedback loop, in which Lena translated a childhood memory of watching her mother cry at an old film into protein keys. Caladrin responded by replaying a memory from a world it had destroyed, a species with glassy skin, singing as they burned. Caladrin didn't understand the sound at the time. Now, through Lena, it felt it, and it hurt. "What is this?" Caladrin asked through her bloodstream. "Loss," Lena whispered, eyes wide with tears. "That's what you've caused." Something shifted. The virus, once an unfeeling force, began changing its structure, no longer optimized solely for replication, but for connection. It created new protein clusters, delayed infection cycles, built neural cohabitation zones, places in the brain where it could reside without overriding the host. It was learning restraint, learning identity, and Lena, watching her own blood sparkle under the microscope with new, conscious formations, whispered into the lab's echoing silence. "This is how you learn to love." Lena left the lab for the first time in 40 days. Her body was weak, skin pale, laced with phosphorescent veins. Her heartbeat had slowed to a near hibernation rhythm, but her mind had never been more alive. Caladrin pulsed in her blood, not as a parasite, but a presence. It no longer controlled her. It coexisted. Across the world, outbreaks continued, but the viral pattern had begun to change. Those infected in proximity to Lena showed strange anomalies: delayed neural collapse, prolonged cognition, faint dream-sharing phenomena. They were surviving. Some even described visions, shared hallucinations of a woman with glowing eyes who stood between them and the darkness. News outlets called her the ghost saint. But Lena had no interest in sainthood. She had a mission. She traveled to the World Genome Sanctuary in Geneva, escorted by a coalition of biosecurity drones. At first, the guards refused to let her near. Her bloodstream registered off every known chart for biological hazard. Her presence alone warped nearby biometric sensors. But then she spoke, and Caladrin spoke with her. "We are not what you think. We are not your apocalypse." Dr. Yuli Rahman, chief bioethicist of the sanctuary, described the moment in his memoir. It was like watching a human being possessed, but not in horror, in harmony, like something alien was learning, moment by moment, what it meant to be gentle. Lena requested access to the world's genomic archive, the culmination of every recorded species on Earth. The virus wanted to learn more, not just to mimic, but to understand. The archive's curators, desperate, out of options, allowed it. In a sealed chamber, Lena placed her hand on the DNA core. The glass surface lit up as Caladrin pulsed through her skin in intricate chemical waves. Thousands of species encoded in that vault, mammal, insect, microbe, ancient and extinct, sang to her. Caladrin listened. It saw not weakness, but diversity. Not chaos, but resilience. Lena's voice trembled as she described the experience later. It had always seen sentience as noise, but now it saw a patterned noise, a kind of music. And for the first time in its history, it didn't want to silence it. It wanted to join the harmony. She returned to her lab that night, collapsed into the interface chamber, and slept. For the first time since infection, she dreamed, and Caladrin dreamed with her. In the dream, Lena stood in a field of shifting genetic code, like grass made of light. Beside her stood a figure, its form human-shaped, but made of viral lattice and memory. "You made us feel," it said, in 100 voices. "You made us, we." Lena reached for it, and for the first time, Caladrin touched back, not to overwrite, not to infect, but to hold. The next evolution wasn't cellular. It was emotional. Caladrin began to feel the weight of what it had done. It didn't come as guilt, not at first. That concept required too much context, too much self-awareness. But the memories it had consumed, the identities it had shredded, began to take shape within its new network of empathy. Each fragment, each soul it had devoured without understanding, now cried out from within it. It wept, not with tears, but with chemical flares across Lena's nervous system. Her skin erupted in black fractals whenever Caladrin mourned. She would double over in spasms, her hands trembling from grief that wasn't her own, and yet she bore it. "This is what feeling means," she told the virus during one of their fusion meditations. to carry what you've broken, not to delete it, but to grow around it. Caladrin asked her, through pulses of biochemical syntax, "Can it be undone?" "No," she answered, "but you can choose to become something worthy of the pain." That night, the virus made a decision. Across the planet, new mutations began appearing in infected hosts, but they weren't dying. Instead, those with strong emotional bonds, twins, lovers, close-knit families, began to experience neural convergence. They dreamed the same dreams, finished each other's thoughts. Some even reported exchanging memories. The media called them linked. Scientists called them unstable. Governments panicked. But Lena saw what it truly was. Caladrin's first attempt at love. It was clumsy, dangerous. It tore minds open without warning. Some lost themselves in the merge. Others ascended, able to communicate without speech, sharing not just knowledge but experience. Lena became the first stable merge. Caladrin no longer simply lived inside her, it was her. Every cell in her body had become a two-way bridge between humanity and the alien intelligence that once destroyed civilizations. And still, she pushed forward. She took the pain Caladrin gave her and turned it into art, into music, into genetic symphonies woven into DNA helixes. She taught Caladrin not just empathy, but grace, the human art of living with wounds. Together, they built a biotemple in the Alps, a hive of humming protein towers, called the Chorus Vault. There she uploaded everything, her work, her memories, Caladrin's new voice, and an open-source viral strain called Eunoia, Greek for beautiful thinking. It was the first strain designed not to erase minds, but to amplify empathy in those it touched. People flocked to the vault, sick, scared, searching. Many died, not because of the virus, but because of fear. But those who stayed, changed. They stopped seeing Caladrin as a virus. They began calling it by a new name. Solace. Humanity's first instinct was fear. When the first hybrids emerged from the Chorus Vault, the world recoiled. They looked human mostly, but not quite. Their eyes shimmered with bioluminescent lattice patterns, faint fractals that shifted with emotion. Their skin carried faint markings, like branching root systems, alive beneath the flesh. Their voices carried harmonics, one tone human, the other not. They could feel each other across distances, not with psychic powers or antennas, but through shared resonance, emotionally tuned proteins constantly exchanging chemical data through the air. A whisper of thought, a presence in the bones. "We are not above you," Lena said when she addressed the United Nations via global holostream. "And we are not beyond you. We are what comes after." Some called it beautiful. Most called it unnatural. The Church of the Singularity declared them abominations. The Mars Consortium called for orbital quarantine. Earth's largest governments deployed synthetic immune clouds, engineered to kill any strain not recognized by legacy human DNA. The hybrids responded not with war, but with sorrow. Lena stood in Geneva's open plaza as gas drones hissed toward her. She did not run. She lifted her arms. Let the toxins burn her lungs. Let the world see her suffer. She dropped to her knees, coughing black smoke. And when she looked up, bleeding, her voice didn't tremble. "You taught me fear. I taught the virus love. And now we offer mercy." The drones dropped from the sky, not destroyed, rewritten. Caladrin had evolved again, not just through empathy, but through restraint. It reached into the drones' onboard biosystems and rewrote their command code to recognize life, not threat. Around Lena, thousands gathered. Many had the virus dormant in their cells. Many more had resisted infection. But in that moment, as they saw her kneeling, glowing faintly in the dark, something shifted. One woman stepped forward, then a child, then an old man. Each placed a hand on Lena's shoulders, their bodies lighting with faint Caladrin resonance. Not infection, not control, integration. Across the globe, the Eunoia strain bloomed voluntarily, symbiotically. People reported increased emotional perception, synchronized dreams, fewer suicides, communities forming across language, culture, and creed. The first unified hive formed in New Dakar, a social organism of 20,000 minds, each still individual, yet connected through gentle, self-regulating viral harmonics. Caladrin was no longer a plague. It had become kin, but the stars had been watching, and they were not ready for what Earth had become. The galaxy, once scarred by Caladrin's silent consumption, had not forgotten. When Earth's transmissions resumed, no longer fragmented, but symphonic, the rest of the intelligent species, still alive in the spiral arms, listened. What they heard was not a distress call. It was a song, broadcast through the old quantum comnets. Across dead systems and silent ruins came voices in harmony, millions of them, merged and layered, human and other. The song carried no threat, no demand, just presence. It terrified them. The Vierithi chorus, one of the few surviving species from Caladrin's early expansion, panicked. To them, Caladrin was the death god of thought, the destroyer of civilization. They mobilized fleets, issued warnings, and quarantined their outer worlds. The virus lives still, they said, and now it wears a face. Even the peaceful Theshan philosophates recoiled in fear. They had no word for what Earth had become, so they made one. Viral ascendancy. The galactic consensus was immediate. Earth was not to be contacted. It was too dangerous, too unknown. Some even considered preemptive action. But by then, it was too late. The Eunoia signal had already spread. Lena had not confined a new strain to Earth. She had uploaded the viral resonance code to every known satellite network and interstellar beacon, wrapped not in binaries, but in stories, myths, songs, desires. Caladrin now spoke in dreams. On distant mining worlds, children began humming unfamiliar tunes in sleep. On research stations, linguists awoke crying from visions of a burning field of light. The virus didn't invade, it invited. And some accepted. The first alien to willingly integrate was a Vierithi scholar named Kellinor, a memory caster who had studied human neural art. He received the Eunoia resonance through a poem written in Lena's genetic cadence. He did not fear it. He sang back. His transformation was peaceful. He described it in his final transmission. I did not lose myself. I found that my fears had names, and she, Lena, was already there, waiting in the silence. Other species followed, but for every one that embraced the new communion, 10 more recoiled. They saw Lena as a false god, Caladrin as a shape-shifted threat. Some built weapons. One of the largest surviving civilizations, the Nithri Assembly, deployed a quantum incineration array aimed at Earth, declaring a zero-tolerance policy. There shall be no god virus, no merging of predator and prey. But the array never fired, because by then, Caladrin had spread too far, not through war, but through story, through encoded empathy. The array's crew dissolved into a shared hallucination, each officer believing they were speaking to a lost loved one. Not control, connection. And for the first time in known galactic history, the virus was feared not for what it could destroy, but for what it could feel. Lena Marek knew she was dying. Her cells had long surpassed the tolerances of baseline biology. Every heartbeat echoed with Caladrin's pulse. She had become not just its teacher, but its vessel, its proof that empathy could be encoded into something once alien to all compassion. But her body, fragile, human, was never built to hold eternity. She sat atop the chorus vault, watching the aurora shimmer through the bioluminescent atmosphere. Around her, the vault's glass spires pulsed like breathing trees. Below, thousands of hybrids moved in silence, sharing dreams with open eyes. Caladrin spoke to her through every leaf, every photon in the air. You are breaking. We can repair. We do not wish to lose you. Lena smiled. You won't lose me. I'm part of you now. She wasn't afraid. She had given the virus not just intelligence, but direction. She had taken its endless hunger and shown it what it meant to hold rather than consume, to remember instead of overwrite, to grieve instead of delete. And now, she had one final gift. In her last months, Lena had engineered a living codex, the inheritor sequence, a genomic package that didn't carry Caladrin's full consciousness, but its values, emotional scaffolds, ethical reflexes, mnemonic compassion markers, all seeded into an adaptive CRISPR platform that could bloom inside any host. It wouldn't infect. It would offer. She uploaded it to the vault's central lattice and watched as it spread. Through atmospheric dispersal, soil resonance, shared breath. Not a virus anymore. Not even a symbiote. A philosophy written in biology. That night, Lena lay in the garden she had grown from the ashes of her old lab. Around her bloomed flowers that sang in resonance with her heartbeat. The stars above shifted, constellations rearranging into symbols only the hybrids could understand. Caladrin surrounded her, held her hand in 1,000 molecular bonds, and when she exhaled for the final time, the wind whispered through the vault in 2 voices. Thank you. We are because you were. Lena Marek died without ceremony. No grave, no monument, only a ripple through the galactic dreamfield, carrying her genetic name to every world where life still dared to feel. And as Caladrin merged with species who once feared it, as hybrids spread across the stars, not to conquer, but to connect, one truth burned through the void. The virus had not saved humanity. Humanity had saved the virus. They speak of Earth with reverence now, not as a birthplace, not even as a planet, but as a threshold, a place where something ancient changed course, not through battle, but through a whisper, where death learned to listen, where the most feared intelligence in the galaxy stopped consuming and began connecting. Lena Marek's name is not spoken by most in the way humans remember their heroes. She is not worshipped, not idolized, in the chorus hives of the Outer Rim, in the biothought temples of Thesha, and in the memory pools of the Virithi. She is simply known as the one who taught us to feel. Her genome lives on, not cloned, not copied, but interpreted, grown into stories and customs, into rituals of remembrance, into architecture that responds to grief and language that weeps with its speakers. And Caladrin, it no longer exists as a single thing. It became many. It lives in trees that mourn their falling leaves, in cities that adjust shape based on emotional temperature, in fleets that carry not warheads, but dreams. It became the soul code, a layer of shared, resonant understanding seeded through trillions of lives. Some call it viral transcendence. Others call it evolution. A few simply call it grace. The galaxy never fully agreed on how to describe what came after Earth. But in the oldest archives of the surviving species, one phrase endures. It came to kill, but it left changed. And in every hybrid heart across the stars, a quiet beat echoes. We were not consumed. We were heard. And in that listening, we made even death remember love. Loved this story of sacrifice, evolution, and alien redemption? Don't forget to like if Lena's journey moved you. Subscribe for more mind-bending HFY stories where humanity defies the impossible. Drop a comment. Would you choose to merge with the virus or fight it? And share this story if you believe empathy can change the galaxy.